Hey guys, Chief Fruity, and this is the BTS for Distorted. It's kind of thinking, like, what is this again? Oh, but then I remembered, so that was pretty cool. So this is the project for Distorted. 33 audio tracks. That's like that's like 11 times 3. So this is the project for Distorted. So I'm gonna go through what I did here, just like I did for Dropping Hard. And yeah, show you guys what I did for Distorted. So right away down here in the very beginning, it starts off with the sub bass right here. So this sub it's some pretty basic patterns, so I'll play that right now. So that's the sub, and if you didn't hear that, that's okay, because it's a really low frequency, so you'd have to have good speakers to hear that. So this is a really basic sub. It's just the pitch is all the way down, 0.1 for the frequency there, and it's the sine wave, which gets it a good sub. So there you go, and this sub is on track 13, and there's no effects on it, just a little bit of volume, getting it higher so it stands out a little bit more. And then I got the drums. So I'll go into all of these drum sounds here. So this is the drum loop. And that used the kick drum. So that's a pretty bassy kick. And when I do full-on dubstep songs like this Distorted track, you know, like for kicks, you gotta get them pretty bassy. Just like that. So that is for track 1. No effects, just full volume. Because when you're doing songs like this, like, you gotta get the drums really loud. So that's the kick. And then I got the snare here. So that resonated for a while. That's because I put some reverb on here. Just that tiny bit. You see how the wetness right there is just a little bit? So even though it's just that little bit, the snare really resonated. It's like, listen to it again now. And that's because it's a pretty awesome snare sample. So, you know, the beat's not just the kick and snare. There's some hi-hats. So this is the hi-hat sample. Really basic. Just for the hi-hat. That's track 7. No effects, no volume modifications. Just right on in the mixer. So when it's playing, I like to have everything laid out on the mixer. So that is for the drums right there. I'll play the loop for you one more time right here. Another cool thing I did with the hi-hats right here is I laid them out in the piano roll, and these right here, that's the velocity of the hi-hats. So as you can tell, if I just solo these hi-hats and just play the hi-hats by muting the kick and snare, you'll hear that their volume changes each hit. Oh, I didn't mute the snare. I muted the wrong snare. So I'll turn the tempo down so you can really hear it. So it's going from loud to quiet really fast, which is at the tempo because it's playing 16th notes, and the tempo is 140 BPM. So this is that with the tempo and with the velocity. And then with the kick and snare, and there you got the drum loop. So that was the drum samples. And what else do I got here? Let's see, that's okay. Got this bleeding bass right here. So I'll give this a playthrough. And this was made in Harmor. So this sound I made from scratch, so I'll go through what I did here. So I turned up the unison all the way up. You can kind of hear it, so I'll play it without the unison. You can tell that plays a pretty big difference, as well as the harmonies up all the way, just the amount, the width, and stir are default, and the prism is engaged slightly. So without the prism, it's like this. It just really gives it a little bit of depth. The pitch is all the way down because it's a bass, and plex all the way up. See, frequencies all the way up, and I think that's about it for here. What do I have for the envelopes? Phaser mix is in a wobble here, but I didn't end up using the phaser, so that doesn't really matter. I was thinking I might use the phaser. I have timbre one harmonic level. Let's see, it's going at a slight tilt down. So if the sound were to continue for a long time, it'll slightly go down with harmonics. And then with the harmonic randomness, I really did some random stuff just to get the harmonics a little bit different. So it sounded like not perfect, but a little random, which is actually what I wanted in that case. And then on the mixer, I have a Vocodex right here. And this Vocodex turned the band values all the way up, vocal all the way up, and turned it to the female range for vocals, and it harmonized it, so instead of like one person, it'd be like two people. That's really what Vocodex does, is it kind of makes it like harmonized / watery / vocally. So filled it up a lot. I got the wetness and SG all the way there, and surprisingly I kept the draft on. Normally I turn the draft off, but this time I had it on, so without the draft it'd sound like this. With the draft it sounds like this. So just very slight changes, and 46 bands of distribution, which is all of these down here. So with like 5 it'd be like that, with 100 it's like that, and it was at 46, which is the default. So that's for Vocodex. I also have Effector with some reverb. So without that reverb, it would be like this. With the reverb, really gets it to resonate there some more. And I have some distortion, which the distortion is not engaged, so there's no difference if I disable it. And then I was experimenting with distortion, I just didn't check out this plugin, but it is doing a little bit. So that is it for this sound, and this automation clip is keeping the frequency all the way up, so when it goes down, it will drain. This is the master volume, which is keeping the overall volume that length, because at the end of the track it fades out. So I do that so it doesn't fade out at random parts of the track. That'd be pretty bad. Drums, this is the opening crash. And that's the crash I use throughout all of the song. It's track 8, full volume, and no effects are on the crash. And then noise. So let's listen to this noise. This noise was made in 3XOSC. Like in Dropping Hard, you might remember I made the noise in GMS. In this one, I made it in 3XOSC. And sometimes it's a little bit simpler, just a little different tone of noise, more of a white noise instead of a noise. And I just used filter cutoff to bring it down. Noise is on track 14, no effects, just raise the volume right here. I don't know if you can see that because of my pictures there, but there, that's the noise. And that is it for this first little 2-bar chunk of distorted. So when it goes to this downfall here, or bridge, whatever you'd like to call it, the drums fade out. So how I faded out these drums is I just used modifier X, which is filter cutoff. So I'm just play the drums with these envelopes, so you can listen to the drums fade out by themselves. So that is how I faded them out, and by doing that I automated on all of them mode X right here. This is the filter cutoff for the drums, and there's no noise there, some cymbals, and the bass stays the same, as well as the lead fades out, which is this bass here. So how I got this to fade out was by turning down the filter frequency right here. That's being automated to pull it down, so I'll single that out and you can hear that. So that is that single tone, and then it goes into the rise right here. So for the rise, here are some of the dubstep sounds coming in. Now I'll get into these when the drop comes. So for now you can see everything's rising up. This is the riser, so I'll show you the riser here. And then how I got this to raise pitch was I used a slide note here and just raised it an octave. So here's the riser by itself. And this was a preset made inside of Citrus. So I didn't make the sound, it was one of the presets here. It was one of these mini. I don't remember what it was called, but you could probably find it. And it's track 11. I did some EQ to boost out the lows and 100% reverb to get it to resonate more. And then the sub is continuing. I got these kicks going. So that is the rise there, and as you can see right here, the reason for these clips is since they all got dropped down to 0% here, I rose them up to 50% here. And the reason I didn't do 100 is because with this filter, 50% or 100, there's no difference. It's just 50 to 0 brings it down, 0 to 50 brings it all the way back up. Since with these drum samples, the 100% doesn't do it, it's just a 50. So that might be kind of confusing, but you could count this as just bring it up to 100%. So yeah, and then the noise is coming in, so I'll solo this noise. This is part of the another riser here. So that is actually what made this drop most intense. That noise contributed a lot. So then there's all of these dubstep sounds here. So let's go into these. So first there's this bass. And what you might, I'm actually just going to show you these in the drop. So right here in the drop, these are all the basses. So there's this first one, I'll solo this, and it has 3 automation clips. So I'll play this for you. So you might have been expecting for the and the white to be different sounds, but they're the same. It's just a matter of automation and pitch. So for this first little bit of the sound, it's just going like this. And I did that just by lowering it a couple notes. And then for the second part of the sound, what I did is I used slide notes again to bring it up and then down like this. And that's what made that sound develop. So all together, but that doesn't sound like it did in the track, so that's what these automation clips are for. So this first automation clip, this is the filter cutoff. So this is what it sounds like with only the filter cutoff. So it's starting to develop that original sound, but not quite. So then I use this modifier Y to make this beginning sound more harsh. So this is what it sounds like with the modifier Y. And that's almost exactly how it is, but not quite, because this point right here, where the cutoff is all the way down, it kind of skips that, and you don't hear it, so I wanted to get that more intense, so I put some distortion right here at high percentage when there's 0% here, then it goes to 0% when the cutoff is at high percentage to fill it up. So this is it with the distortion, with the modifier Y, and with the filter cutoff. So that's that sound. And then what else? Oh yeah, that sound is layered with this sound. So I'll get into this one. This plays along with this. So I'll engage this also and just play this. So it's two sounds playing at once. And why I did it with two sounds is so that first growl right at the beginning of the drop is more intense. So what I did for this was the second bass. And how is this bass made? Oh yeah, I need to select it. So this bass has some full frequency, low pitch, has some distortion on the flat hat. So I'll play it again here so you can kind of hear that. So you can kind of hear the distortion a little bit. Pitch is all the way down, no prism. But most of this sound was done on its track 15 with Vocodex. Wetness and SG are full again, and I put it to the male vocal, and the bands are the same as they normally would be. And then the fastest, which is distortion, is high to really get that to pop. And then it's automating some cutoff and some distortion. So basically this sound is much like this sound over here, which I can play right now. So this sound right here is very similar to this sound. Just different sounds of playing it, you know. So with this one, I forgot to show you this in the plugin, didn't I? Oh well. This one is another FM synth. So these are all 6 operators, triangle wave with some additional harmonics inside here to get it a little rougher. And then there's operator 3, triangle wave. Operator 4 is the sine wave that's been offset a little bit. Operator 5 is triangle wave that's been offset a little bit as well. And then track operator 6 is a sine wave. And that is that. This is a preset I got from Seamless down here. So if you don't know what that is, you should look them up. He has some good sounds. But I modified it a little bit because I don't like having presets that anyone else could get in my tracks. So I did that. And this is the free modulation. No, this is the original frequency modulator. And then there's the remodulation. So that was kind of another failure. Track 10. See what I did to it on track 10. Put some Vocodex. So yeah, you can see full wet, full SG, full bands, full vocal, female vocal type, and 2 people would be doing it to get the sound. And then I used some chorus to kind of get at that little shakiness. So yeah, you can hear that. Then this distortion is what automates this. So there's that. So these 2 sounds playing now, all activated, are like this. And that's what kicks off the drop. That was a lot of time for those little bits of sounds. So that was those 2 sounds. In the next, we got the melody, which is this. Oh, that's the song. What's that, like fail number 2? What is the note? So this is the same sound and same melody from the beginning with these first 2 notes cut off, since those 2 notes would be in this space, but there was a sound there, so I got rid of them to play this original melody. So I already showed you that sound from the beginning over here. It's the same sound and playing the same melody, so I won't go into that anymore. But this, I already showed you the sound too. It was this one right here. So it plays this melody. And I like that sound a lot. And then it has filter cutoff, so when that's soloed with the filter cutoff, it sounds like this. And why I had the filter cut off is because this is a pretty intense sound. I didn't want it to overrun everything else, so I put some cutoff on there, just like this, to give it some fluctuation. And then for this sound, this is kind of the main one you hear. So this is another preset from Seamless. I made some little changes to it. I activated the phaser a little bit. What else? I think the harmonies were a little bit higher originally. And that's kind of all I did here. I think I turned up the vibrato a little bit, which this is what it does. So it basically makes the pitch go up and down. So without the vibrato, it's flat, and with it, it's like this. So it gives it that shaky wobbliness. And then on the mixer, I put on a little bit of reverb. And that's all I did to that sound. So with this sound, this bass, and the cutoff, and the original bass, it sounds like this. And that has some good harmonies. We're playing 3 sounds with it. So there's that. And then it copies the same thing here. The only difference between this second pattern is this note drops 1. It was, yeah, it just drops, oh, this would be the second one. It just drops 1. So I just dropped that note by 1 note. And then this little section here is the same as the very beginning. Then this is the very last one. Now this sound, I expanded it a little bit. So, well, I can just show you in here. So really, I just added 1 extra little chunk to it for some variation. So I'll play this full sound here with this beginning kind of extra adding sound. Just this little bar. And I did that. I call this rounding, where basically it's not the exact same as the other ones. It gets it a little bit different, so it's not everything's exactly the same by pattern wise. You gotta fluctuate that a little bit for it to sound interesting. So that's what I did right there, and by getting that a little bit longer. And then since that was longer, these had to be shorter. So they are shorter, and I changed their notes a little bit. Kinda as like a finale to going into drop B. So that was the lead playing those notes. Now I have the bass playing the notes. And the second bass playing the notes. So what else do I have in the drop? There's the drums, some noise, and that's it really, because since all these bass sounds are here, I don't really need anything else. And then drop B, this is different. So you can, that clearly sounds pretty different. So I'll play this sound solo without this just yet, so you can hear the roots. But that doesn't sound exactly like it does in the track. That's because these aren't here. So you may not have known that this was playing the whole time, but this gets it to kind of shake and wobble a little bit. So listen. So it kind of sounds like it's being stretched, pulled, misshapen with these sounds. So that's why I added them, because I thought it's cool and it added character to the sound. And it sounds pretty cool. So with these, it just rises the pitch 2 octaves. So that's pretty high. And then it has this distortion, and this is the filter cutoff. So I'll just play this bass for you here, so you can hear this. And then that adds some character to this original sound here. So that is that. And then the melody changes, so here's the melody with the lead. So the reason why I decided to change this melody was, again, to make it more interesting, since it's just playing a really small loop over and over again. So I had to do a lot of changes to it. So hence this. And then I did this same melody in this bass. and that has filter cutoff, so I'll play that with the filter cutoff for you right here. Just select it, and that sounds kind of glitchy, so obviously it can't be on its own. And then there's this bass that I'm playing right here with the same melody. That doesn't have any filter cutoff, it's just right like that. So there's that second melody, and again here it's the same sound. It's really copying the same thing 3 times, well, except for here. This melody, it goes a note higher. And it does that to this one as well. And this one as well. So there's that, and then at the very final one right here, it plays the sound longer again, so I'll show you this. And that soloed with the automation clips is like this. And then with this second bass, it sounds like this. And these are the exact same as before, just 3 times instead of 2. So there's that. And then what else? Here, I think the melody is a little different, so I'll find it and play it. Yeah, it gets a little higher in pitch right here. And here. And then it finalizes the drop with this little sound here. And I'll show you this sound soloed. So it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna solo it with the automation. And that's basically the same one that was playing throughout the rest of the drop. So that's the drop right here. I'll show you from the zoomed out. Drop, drop B, and here's all the bass. And the drum loop, here, I'll show you the drum loop right now. So that's the first little bar, here's the second little bar. And then the third little bar. The same as the first, and then the fourth. So that is the drop for Distorted. So now it's time for the verse. And in the verse here, I have the bass right here playing the same pattern as at the intro of the song. So here it is. And that's the main melody of Distorted. I almost said Dropping Hard, but that was last BTS. This is Distorted. So the filter's all the way up. And for the bass line right here, let's see. What did I do? I put the Vocodex bassline pitch. Looks like the Vocodex band values decreased on this bassline. So this is the same bass that was in the drop as the second bass. So I'll play the bass line here with the same bass. So why I put the bandwidth down is because when the bandwidth was all the way up, it sounded like this. And that messed up in the mix. It just overtook everything and the compression was way off. So I had to bring the band value down a little bit. And then there's the lead here, which is with the main lead sound that you recognize from the drop. And this is basically just a little chunk from this. It's this part right here, just copied, pasted into these notes. So that's that. What else? Got the sub bass, already showed you that, and then this is the drum loop. And then it stays that same beat the entire verse. And then it goes to this downfall where everything's fading out. The frequency, this is the amount of this same frequency there, fading out. And then there's this lead here, the frequency is fading out. The drums, they're fading out. The sub bass stays the same though. So I won't go into that because that's basically exactly what it was like on the downfall right here. So back to now the rise. So this rise is exactly the same, just this melody is different. So why I decided to change the melody for the second drop was, again, to keep it interesting. Because I thought that if I played this same melody again, it'd get kind of boring, and then this song would get boring fast. And I wanted the song to kind of stick, so people would want to hear it again. And yeah, so I changed the melody. So this first sound's the same, just the melody's different. So I already showed you this lead melody, so I'll show you this bass with the melody. Looks like it's cut off, so I'll show it to you in the playlist here. So this is it, the bass line. And then there's the main bass. Oh, darn, another fail. It's fail 3 for this BTS. And then there's this bass. And I just thought that's kind of a cool sound to kind of pull up the pitch and then play 2 notes and pull it up again. And then it resets back in this main sound. And then for the second melody, the pitch rises even more each time. So this is it. And then that played with this bass line is like this. And then that's really gets it pretty interesting when that is different from the second one. And then there's this bass line. So though there's that same thing here, this is the exact same, that extra little longer lead bass there. And then right here it stops to say that. That. Which is this vocal. And
I remember that.
This
I
vocal.
remember that.
I got it from the playlist here. It's in like vocals. Is it in here? I don't remember if it's in here.
And we rock so spin. That's right. You and what? Yeah. You and I remember. I remember that. I remember that.
It's right here. So I just used that vocal there, and I just cut it to say that to kind of get a little silence before the drop B, which is where it's playing the exact same thing, just a faster beat. And that gets it pretty groovy. It only does that for a measure though. And then it goes back to this same melody, and then to exit this final drop, well, there's another one at the end. I use this again. You remember this? So I played that again, and I had to cut it from this side because this one's longer, because it's 3, and I had to cut it from this side because there's this little growl exiting it into the verse. So this final verse is the exact same as the very first verse, and then it silences again to say that again to get you ready for the final drop here, which is exactly the same as the first drop. The only difference is the master volume is fading out to nothing, and then the track ends. So that is Distorted. It is quite a simple track. Since there's basically just those 3 bass sounds, the lead, the first bass, and the second bass playing through the whole song, switching melodies and harmonizing. So that's what made it pretty simple. And yes, let's see, is there any other stuff I want to touch on? No, there's not, unless you have more questions. If you have more questions about this song, put them in the description below and I'll get to them. So this is the entire song from Zoomed Out. Noise, these are all the drums and percussion, bass, rise, vocals. There's not many vocals. This is some frequency for the main lead sound. Then this is the main bass, main lead. This is all that second bass, and this is the first bass from the beginning, and then the master volume. So that was Distorted BTS, and see, I don't have any more songs to make BTS's of right now. So that's that. By the way, update on the album I'm working on. June 17th, 2016. It'll be out. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. And then following that, throughout the rest of the summer, I'll make BTS's of those songs. and I might do some tutorials or something. So if you haven't subscribed to my main channel already, go do that. That's where I post all my music. You'll find this song there. And that is in the description of this video. You can also follow me on Twitter, SoundCloud, my other SoundCloud, my main YouTube. You can subscribe to this channel. That's highly recommended. You should do that right now. Unless you have already, then you should go follow me in my other medias. So, that's Distorted. Hope you enjoyed it. Any more questions, comments below. Bye.